And a few minutes later, our stencil is complete. So we will go over here and I'll just delete that layer. We don't need it. Go back to our main layer and you see there they are. Now, when you stencil, it does, as I mentioned earlier, change the shape of your geometry at times. However, this is more of a smoothing error. So if I go to my surface editor, I choose my main display. Our smoothing, you can see, is on, which we're going to need a little bit. Okay, but if you turn it off, it actually looks pretty good until you catch it in the light right there. So what we want to do is put it on and bring it to maybe about 20, maybe about 10, 15, something like that. And if you increase it to the certain height, certain degree that is, it should smooth it out just enough where when we render, it won't give us any trouble. Now we probably could use a little more geometry when we started building that, but for something like that, it should be just fine. And we're also not going to make it that shiny as well. So from here, that main display can be any color we want. It's also going to be somewhat clear, and we're going to stick a light behind it. For these numbers, we would need to actually go into each one of these and select. It's not too hard, just a little more tedious than anything else, and that you can come in here, select here like this, and you can't do an expand selection here because these polygons are built in, but it took a couple of seconds. Press Q, this is question mark, and maybe you make these make those a bright red like that. And you'll see that you've got another surface on there. So it's just more of a tedious thing. I will go and do all this for the final model. Not something you actually have to sit and watch. Question mark? And you can do the boxes and everything, whatever color you want. For whatever reason, I can't seem to get the color to come back on this one. Let's do it one more time. Question mark. There we go. Yeah, and that's great about having those in there is that, you can come up nice and close like that. Now, you don't have to do it that way. You can certainly just keep it as an image map, and that's fine too. So, totally up to you. You might want to put another line in here. You might want to make these smaller. Whatever design you like, that's certainly something you can do. But the biggest thing is to isolate that polygonal area and set up a surface so that you can map it or stencil in. All right, so I'm going to save that. Let's come down here to these real things and get this done. I've got a reel in the background here. And basically what we're going to do with this is kind of the same thing. You can certainly make this a graphic in Photoshop. And you can map it cylindrically around the x-axis. There's the x, and you would just map it on there. In this case, I've got this guy here. Instead of putting this as a stencil, because you've seen how that's done, let me show you how we can map it. So you're probably thinking, well, how can you map geometry? Well, you certainly could roll it around and kind of try and size it and fit it, but we're not going to do it that way. We're actually going to do this as a render. So I'm going to delete this wheel. Remember, this is called real things here. And what's cool about this is that we can put our surfaces on. So you can come in here like this, and this is arrow. And for the X, we'll call this X. Okay. And I'm just going to make a bunch of crazy colors, and we're going to leave it like that. Q, and this is small q, because we already have a question mark up on top, so we want to make that one a little bit different. This is check. So this is honestly probably the hardest part of doing something like this, is all these little tedious things. And again, this is where it'd be nice to have some pre-existing graphics. So perhaps you can find some or build some, spend an evening, sit with your laptop and create something. This one here we'll call phone. And the other part too is that you get, you get a little You tend to run out of colors a bit. Snowflake, gotta make that white. White snowflake. This is point, not pint. Point. Might be time for a pint, but right now it's just a point. Make that teal. Trash can. Oscar the Grouch. And we're going to go in here and make this kind of gray blue. And I'm just kind of racing through, so this is not too boring for you. I'm going to call this cactus. It's kind of what it looks like. Give that kind of a brownish color. So we're going to have the ugliest, tackiest slot machine there is. You know, which says a lot for Vegas. 8. Got to be black, right? And finally, we've got our bomb or computer mouse. I'm not sure what that is. It looks like a cartoon bomb or it could be a computer mouse. We'll call it mouse. And finally, we'll come in here. Give it kind of another light green. And I'll save that. Okay. I'm actually going to send that object to layout. Okay. We're going to take our camera, push it in, just to fit everything. Here's our light. Rotate that. And for all of these surfaces, I'm going to hold the Shift key, select both, and bring luminosity all the way up. Turn smoothing off. And if you do a quick little render, you'll see that's what you have. Of course, the black doesn't look so good, but that's okay because we're going to go to backdrop options. Take our backdrop. Going to make it white. Then we're going to go to camera. And I'm going to make this super high res. So we'll just go up here to 1280, and then I'm going to multiply it by 400. Maybe not that much. Let's go to 200. So 2560 by 2048 will be our resolution. Okay. And then from there, now that we have those, I'll show you what this looks like. We have a nice big render, which you can't even see because it's off screen. We have a nice render of those. So let me put anti-aliasing on. And then I've got a couple other little tricks here. The next thing we can do is isolate this area that we want to render. So I don't even have to go into Photoshop and crop this. Okay. So come in here, press L. You get your limited region, and then grab a handle and line that up. L again, limited region. Just click it as you're in layout. And look what happens. We render just that. And I'll move it over. See that? So we have the anti-aliasing, so the ends are clean, and now we have all these renders all the way down. Okay, now one of those, I think, the check mark, you know what I got to do? The hand is too bright. You can't see it. So I'm going to go back to the hand here, and let's just make this just a little darker gold color. There we go. Do one more render. And you can see there it is. Okay, so I'm going to come up here to File. We're going to save this. You can even just save it as a JPEG. Go to Desktop, Casino, Images, and we'll call this Wheel Graphic. And I'm going to save this scene as well. You can call this up and take a look at it. All right, so here's the real things. We'll close this out, close that object. And last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to put this on. I'm going to fix this. Select the right bracket key and press F. Flip those around. Okay. We'll come back here, put those in the background layer now that they are flipped the right way. Shift C for stencil. And we can call this we'll just call it, we'll give it a new surface. We'll call this display graphics. And you can see that the stencil's working. Now, that render I did, we're going to actually apply once we get everything into layout. And I'll show you how to put those on the reels. Okay. You take a look here. That's stenciled in. And again, changes our smoothing a little bit. So that's okay. If you put smoothing on, for display graphics doesn't really do a lot, and that's fine because it's primarily flat down there. It's that lower display right there. If you turn smoothing off, you can see that that fixes that error because that's flat. So you're telling the computer you want to smooth that out, but really when it's a flat surface, you don't need to. Okay, from here, you can literally just put on whatever you want. So let's just do that real quick so we can get to our surfacing. You can call this, your own slot machine you could put on there. Maybe a couple of 7s, something like that, question marks. Let's just do a 7. Hit numeric. Let's choose an Arial bold italic, something like that. Okay. Turn off the text tool. We'll scale that down. This will be our 777 machine. We're going to center that. Command C to copy. Command V to paste. This one, maybe we'll size down just a little bit. Command C to copy. Move it over. Command V to paste. And we'll just do that. Okay, and then you could probably even create another one of these things. Let's just do that. We're going to make it very simple. I'm going to put those in the background. I'm going to take this guy here. Shift H for scale. I'll scale that down. I just copied it. You can even press the R key. Just rotate it. Maybe not a full 90. Let's just do it, maybe like that. Just a little something. And you can even take one of the other little designs that we used and put it on the other side. Okay. And this guy here, select connected with the right bracket and delete it. Okay, so then for our numbers, let's line those up as well. So press the T key. Let's move them forward with these. Shift E for extrude, and we'll extrude those out. And we're going to call these numbers. And actually, you don't even have to, because once we stencil these in, it will only be one surface, so we're going to have to reselect those. But they are all facing outward. The polygons are facing out. You can see the surface normals. So select the main unit. Make sure we save it first. And let's put everything on the same layer. Cut and paste. Okay, so main unit. Put those in the background. Looks like it's good. Actually, might need to come back a little bit. Right there. Yep. Somehow we are back too far. Good. Okay, reverse layers with the single quote key. Shift C is our stencil. And we'll just call it display graphics as well. And you can see it working down here. Ta-da! Reverse layers. Press delete. Reverse layers. And there is our machine. We'll call the bottom display graphics, but I will select the 7s and give them their own surface name. And again, you can use graphics or you can stencil them like I've done here. Totally up to you. Press Q and we'll call this 777. Save it. Okay. And then I've got another graphic we're just going to throw in here. But for the most part, our model is complete. I got one more thing I'm going to do though. This is going to be a little bit longer video. We're going to come over here to create. And we are going to hold the control key as we select a disk, about like that, and about like that. Okay. Command X to cut this, Shift N for new, and paste it down in F2. I just built it next to the slot machine so the scale was appropriate, so the ratio was right. Press B for bevel, and then just kind of bevel this in. I'm just right clicking the mouse, just to change that shape. We'll take maybe this guy here. Let's move it up. Bevel. I'm going to bevel it in. Right click. Bevel it down. Right click. Bevel it out. And then right click some more. Right click bevel. Okay. And we're going to call this seat. We're going to make a little seat that goes right in front of it. And we'll give this a nice burgundy color. Pretend there's a smoking ashtray next to it. We'll just feel like we're in Vegas, okay? So there's a little seat. Let's save it, call it seat. And of course we need our legs for it. So we're going to do that pretty simply with a disk. Hold the control key. And bring that down. There's our leg. I'm going to actually scale that down a little bit. I want those a little bit thinner, and these are just going to be metal. They're going to stick out of here. Press F2 to center, and then hold the control key to move it down, and then let go and hold the control key again to move it over, like that. And then Shift V, hit N for numeric. Make sure that's over the 0 axis for the X, and you get a perfect mirror for that. Command C to copy. Press the R key for scale, but before you do that, make sure your mode is set to origin. Then press the R key with your mouse in this view, and that will rotate it perfectly. And then you could paste down the other ones. And then you can take one of these, Command C to copy, press the R key again in this view, Command V to paste down that original. And here you can actually go in and just Shift H for scale. We're going to scale that down a little bit. And we're going to stick that right in there. And we'll pull that down. And then you can actually just take these points right here. Select loop. It's not going to let me. That's okay. We will just rotate. And we'll go back to Action Center Mouse. We're just going to rotate this into place. Okay, and there's a little leg, and then we can mirror that over and do the same thing. And probably even extend these down. I'm just going to take this, copy, oops, Command C to copy, and let's just move that over. Command V to paste. And the same kind of thing, Command C to copy. You can press the R key for scale, for the 90-degree rotate. And line that up, and then Command V to paste the other ones down. And then back to point mode, and we will select all of these points here. Make sure I got them all. Move out, T for move, and I'll just move those down. Okay, so now I got a stool. Press Q, and we'll call this stool metal for the legs. And since nothing is selected, it's going to apply to everything in this particular layer, which is fine because that's the only thing in that layer. Cut them and paste them down. F2 the center. And there's a little stool. I'm going to stick that in front. And we'll save it. Okay, this video is done. Let's move on to next, and we'll get our texture set up in layout.